We tried to speak to our correspondent Gulliver Cragg in Kyiv a short while ago. We managed to get him back on the line. And Gulliver, as I said to you earlier, I was going to ask you, even before these talks were downgraded, whether there's any hope. But now that they have been downgraded, presumably that hope really has just disappeared.
Yes, sorry for the technical issues earlier. I don't think Ukrainians were expecting nearly as much from these talks as much of the rest of the world seemed to be, simply because they just don't see any signs that Vladimir Putin is really ready to make peace. But clearly it was Marco Rubio pulling out that triggered the other foreign ministers pulling out, because it wouldn't be appropriate to meet on mixed levels, I suppose. And Marco Rubio reportedly pulled out because the Ukrainians were not willing to accept what Trump had, according to numerous media reports, put forward as what he said was his final offer, which was a peace proposal including a recognition of Russian sovereignty over Crimea, the Ukrainian peninsula that Russia annexed in 2014. That's absolutely unacceptable for Ukraine, and Kaja Kallas, the European diplomatic chief, said that it was absolutely unacceptable for the European Union as well. Notably, though, other countries around the world haven't been rushing to say that it's unacceptable for them. Maybe there are some who think that that could be a solution to bring peace, but it's not something I think that the Ukrainians are really ready to accept. From my conversations with Ukrainians in recent weeks and months, I actually get the impression that if they had a really strong guarantee that giving up Crimea would be enough to bring peace, they would go for it. But they don't have that. That's what Ukrainian officials have been saying. There's nothing in terms of what's coming from the other side in these proposals apparently being put forward by the US administration to say what Ukraine would get in exchange. There's a lot for Russia and only very vague promises for Ukraine. But in any case, Ukraine has been saying since weeks ago that it wants to have, first of all, a ceasefire and then talk about the nitty-gritty of a potential peace settlement. Apparently, US sources in London have been talking to journalists saying that they're surprised that that's the Ukrainians' position and that the Ukrainians are insisting on this ceasefire rather than talking about the peace proposal. But officially, at least, that is what the Ukrainians have been saying for weeks.
Gulliver, peace talks maybe, but at the same time, of course, those attacks on Ukraine are still continuing, aren't they?
Yeah, 9 civilians were killed on a bus in the town of Marhanets, which is Dnipropetrovsk region, not far from that Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. It's an area that is frequently shelled, an area that isn't frequently attacked or as frequently as Poltava region. There were drones there, several people injured as well. In Kyiv, a hotel caught fire after a drone attack, or just outside Kyiv. So yes, and the impression that Ukrainians get and the reaction, it seems to me, in public opinion to all of this is not that it's time to make peace because we can't stand it any longer, but more these are all signs that Putin doesn't want to make peace. And at the same time, Putin's forces are not advancing as rapidly in Donbass as they were at the end of last year. And Ukraine keeps getting these successful long-range strikes into Russia, this ammunitions depot that they hit yesterday in Vladimir region, which I believe is still on fire as we're speaking.
Gulliver, thanks very much. Gulliver Cragg, our Ukraine correspondent, talking to us there live from Kyiv.